Hello, my name is John. I'm 35 years old. I have been married for 17 years, same woman. We have a daughter. She's about ready to graduate high school. This month, August 2014, I was diagnosed with primary progressive MS, and this is my story. Before I get into that, I'll just give you a brief rundown on MS. It actually means multiple sclerosis or multiple scarring in your nervous system. Only about 10% of the people that have MS get diagnosed with the primary progressive, which is what I've been diagnosed with. Most people that have MS have the relapsing remitting type, where they get very scary symptoms all of a sudden. They might wake up one morning, not be able to walk, wake up, be blind, incontinent, and then they'll go into remission from those symptoms, and the symptoms will disappear from them, and they can get treatment for that because with relapsing remitting, a lot of it is caused by inflammation. So there are corticosteroids, other anti-inflammatories they can take to help limit the amount of exacerbations, flare-ups, or um, relapses, you could call them. With my kind of MS, it's more degenerative, so there is no treatment for it. They don't know why it happens. They don't know what's going on. They can't stop it. But it is kind of nice that I won't wake up one day and be blind. It's more of a steady decline. So I'll get used to my symptoms, but once the symptoms appear, they don't go away. They just continually get worse. As far as symptom goes, many of the symptoms for both kinds are identical. Um, you have fatigue, which is the big one, weakness in limbs, numbness, pain for no reason, bladder or bowel problems. Some people have sexual problems, dizziness, walking problems, vision problems, reduced memory or concentration, spasticity or spasms in your muscles, depression, anxiety, or emotional changes. It's really hard to say when my symptoms started because up to 10 years ago I had a really good full-time job that I had to quit for health reasons. I was just exhausted. I couldn't do it um, because of the fatigue and the stress involved. Um, Now, for years I've had bladder problems. I have to pee all the time. I don't know why. It never really feels like I totally emptied my bladder. Um, But yeah, for about 8 years now, about 10 years, I've worked part-time. 8 of those, I worked part-time delivering pizzas. In January of 2013, a friend of mine had a brother that was going into hardwood flooring. He had his own hardwood flooring business. And, I wanted to work with him, and he wanted me to work with him. And I lasted 2 days. I wasn't able to do that job physically. That was kind of a hit to the pride. You got to tell another guy, hey, I'm not able to do what you're able to do. Um, but that's you got to know your limitations. Um, and then later on in the spring, I went back to delivering pizzas for a little bit. But later on in the spring, I applied at Home Depot, got hired there, working part time where I am still. I've been asked to go full time, or if I'd be interested in going full time by the management or department heads there. But I knew with my fatigue, I knew I wouldn't be able to do it. At that time, I didn't know that I had MS. It was about September of last year that I actually felt my first neurological symptom. It was a shock in my left leg, like somebody was using a taser on me. I'd be walking, and all of a sudden, and then I'm like, "Whoa, what is that?" I kind of thought it was a pinched nerve. Later on, I also started to get like a feeling that foot in that same leg was asleep. So in December, it still hadn't gone away, so I went to go see my chiropractor, see if he could relieve it, because I really did think it was a pinched nerve. Um, Nothing worked. Nothing he told me to do worked. And then during the winter, my right foot also started to feel like it was asleep all the time. And both feet now were numb and tingly. And that's when I started to get a little bit worried. I was like, man, what is going on with me? But I didn't think it was anything big. I just thought it would correct itself in time. Um, now, May of this year, I was getting up from a seated position and I felt something weird in my back, and it was terribly painful. It's kind of hard to describe, but it was almost like somebody was taking pruning shears or scissors or something and cutting my spinal cord. For a week, I wasn't able to do anything, any kind of lifting. I had a hard time just even moving a little bit. Um, that's when I went to see my doctor. Uh, now I told her my symptoms, so she tested me for rheumatoid arthritis. That came back fine, and then so she referred me to a neurologist. On June 23rd, I had my first appointment with my neurologist. Told him my symptoms. He did a couple of the reflex tests right there in the office, and a couple of mine came back abnormal. That my reactions were abnormal. So he thought I might have had a vitamin B12 deficiency. Tested me for that. Came back okay. He said it's time for an MRI of your spine. Okay. It was about this time that my legs were starting to get really weak, and I was complaining a lot to my wife. She started to get a little more worried about what was going on with me, and she did some research, and she's a nurse, so she has a medical background anyway. And I still remember when she told me, I think you have MS. You need to look at the symptoms. You need to read about them. So I did, and I just was like, oh, crap. Oh, crap. That, I mean, I was looking at videos of people that had it and everything, and I was like, oh, man, that is totally what I have. So I was nervous about that, and then when the MRI came back, that there was not only scarring on my spine, but I had spinal cord atrophy, which is there's an insulation around your spine called the myelin sheath, and that was getting ate away, you could say. The doctor said it looked like progressive MS, but we need a spinal tap to confirm it. Had my spinal tap done on July 31st. It came back with elevated IgG synth rate, an elevated IgG index, and O bands, which I'm not going to try to say what the O stands for, but that all points to a immune reaction inside your spinal fluid, and that was led to my official diagnosis of primary progressive MS. Now, every day I feel my legs getting a little weaker. I feel my symptoms getting a little bit worse. That shock in my leg is going on every 10 seconds now. I've gotten quite used to it, though. I don't react like I used to. I've been having trouble walking, so pretty soon I'll probably have to use a cane to steady myself. I'm wobbling all over the place. Looks like I'm drunk sometimes. That might end up leading to a walker, which eventually might lead to a wheelchair. Whether that happens a year, or 5 years, or 10, 20, I have no idea. I just hope that my decline stops, because in the last 3 months, I've declined a lot. So I'm just hoping it doesn't keep on that pace. So how am I going to deal with this news? I could shrivel up in a ball and cry and say, why me? But really, the thing that I do feel bad for is I feel bad for my wife, that she has to deal with this. Um, you know, she doesn't deserve that. But at the same point, we look at each other and we say, hey, you know what? There are people that have much worse things than this. So let's just feel fortunate that we don't have something worse to deal with. The things I do know is that I do have a loving, supportive, and very strong woman for a wife. And if I didn't have her, I might be in full panic attack mode right now. I also have a family and her family that we can lean on, if we need anything, and that gives me a lot of comfort. The people at my workplace, Home Depot, the managers and fellow employees there have been very supportive and understanding. In fact, I've had to call off a week with a headache from a spinal tap that I had, and they've been really understanding about that. So I have those things, and I'm also one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So my spiritual family is also very encouraging to me, whether at my local congregation or worldwide. And my faith that Jehovah and His Son Jesus Christ will soon end all suffering in the world today also is comforting to me. If you want to know more about that, you can give me a PM. I'll explain it to you. Or just go to jw.org, get all the information that you want there. Got to represent. I mean, I guess you just have to kind of take it as one day at a time. That's what we all have to do. Let's take this world one day at a time. And everyone's dealing with something. Behind everyone's eyes, there's an untold story of struggle. And people have conquered their struggles, and I intend to conquer mine as well. Whatever it takes. I know that God will give me strength, and I know that I'll get strength from my friends and family. That's all that we can hope for. We're all in this together. Thanks.